The Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I remember when they advertised this, the first thing they did was show where is it? Just this video of Andy Serkis as Caesar. It was like a random clip of Andy Serkis as Caesar just looking. And I was a little upset at first. I'm like, oh, they're going digital. Because I didn't realize that it was such a prequel that they're still just normal apes in the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of got over it. The effects are solid in this film.
Yeah, because a lot of the motion capture we got before this, to be honest, was trash. I mean, was not good. I mean, Beowulf was awful.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of like, and the fact that this was supposed to be mocap as well. So it's like very, like, I was already on the fence of like, how is this going to look good? Because all the stuff before it looks so awful.
Yeah, except for like Gollum. Like that's it.
Oh, yeah, Gollum. Yeah, no, yeah, that's. So I take that back. Gollum was great.
Yeah, but
that still holds up to this day.
Yeah, but then you had stuff like the Silver Surfer and stuff. Like it was kind of like, all right, we're gonna go all in on this. But yeah, I guess I'll just read this plot synopsis here from the beautiful Blu-ray. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a revolution, an action-packed epic featuring stunning visual effects and creatures unlike anything ever seen before. Except for all the other Planet of the Apes movies. At the story's heart is Caesar, Andy Serkis, who had experience playing an ape. He was King Kong. A chimpanzee who gains human-like intelligence and emotions from an experimental drug. It's actually a virus. Raised like a child by the drug's creator, James Franco, who I've had an encounter with in person. I'll tell that story another time.
It's not a good one, I guess.
No, James Franco's people were not happy with me and a guy I used to work with. That was the same night I got yelled at by Miss Piggy's representative and will.i.am's guy. All in one night. What a night that was. Caesar ultimately finds himself taken from the humans he loves and imprisoned, seeking justice. Caesar assembles a simian army and escapes, putting man and primate on a collision course that could change the planet forever. Logan, when did you first see this movie?
I saw it in theaters.
So did I. This was actually a very early Hack the Movies episode.
Oh, shit.
Back when I started in like 2010, 2011, when we were reviewing movies in parking lots. This was like a very early one. So what did you think back then?
I mean, so when I remember when it was coming out, to be honest, I wasn't hyped for it at all.
Neither was I. Neither was I.
I mean, and like it was at this point in like time, like where I was just seeing movies. I was working. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I did just fill my time with just literally going to movies because I used to work at the movie theater, and then I just like I still had friends that worked there. So like I was every other week I was going to the movies just to spend the time, whatever. And I remember I saw this one, and it's good. When I first watched it, it was good. You know what I mean? A rewatch. It's better now that I've matured a little bit more because I was probably like 18 or something like that. No, I was probably like 2011. So sorry, I was like 21 when this came out.
Yeah, around the same age as me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I was ready for a film kind of like this because it is kind of a Debbie Downer. It's pretty depressing. And I remember being pretty depressing at the time. The rewatch, I was like, holy crap, man, this is just sad because the complications of everything that happens afterwards, and then also what Caesar goes through, and just how you just see all this hatred towards him. I'm like, I don't remember it being that bad. And then the rewatch, I'm like, oh, this movie's hard to watch.
Yeah, it's actually more. I actually like it more now, knowing how the series. I mean, I guess I technically always knew how the series goes because it was billed as a Planet of the Apes prequel. But like now that you see like what happens after this, I'm like, man, this one's even more depressing. Now these movies are very sad, by the way.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And like all this guy wanted to do was just cure Alzheimer's. That's all he wanted to do.
And God, John Lithgow is so great in this movie.
Yeah,
he's so great.
And unfortunately, no one told him, like, hey, there was a lady who tried to do this with sharks in the 90s. It didn't work out. he never heard of Deep Blue Sea. I guess the Deep Blue Sea incident didn't take place in this universe because someone would have been like, no. We tried this with sharks. It backfired. Don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, he works for a company and he thinks he's making a breakthrough testing on chimps, but one of the chimps gets out and causes a whole scene. They kill it. They're like, kill all the chimps, and he realizes it had a baby, which is why he was freaking out. And the baby is Caesar, who he then raises and keeps giving the drug to, and eventually matures. So yeah, he basically like, I like the relationship between Caesar and I think his name's Will. I think James Franco plays Will. It's good. I mean, I like this whole like backstory of the Caesar, like being one of them, how he's like smarter than everything. But then it gets a little sad because John Lithgow's brain starts to revert back. Like he gives the same thing to his dad, and it cures his Alzheimer's, but only for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then he just mentally breaks down, and eventually dies. Yeah, Caesar is a really good character. How do you feel about him?
Oh no, he's great. I mean,
Yeah.
his character and this little story arc, and I really like how it blooms throughout the franchise.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and I think the original with establishing his character and it being mainly a Caesar story,
Yeah.
I feel like that makes the sequels hit even harder when you
Mhm.
get to those stories. When you get to that point, because you literally are just traveling with Caesar this entire storyline.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Like, I mean, he was definitely lovable, and you just like you felt for the guy,
Mhm.
and especially those scenes where he's like, what am I? You know, am I a pet? And he's like, no, you're not a pet. And he's
Yeah.
like, okay, then what am I? And you know, like James Franco has to explain to him, oh, this is where you came from. Your mother was here, and X, Y, and
Mm.
Z. And that whole point, like, you know, you think this very intelligent chimp has lived all his life not thinking of himself in this way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Because he's
It's very
lived with
heart help.
he's in like a weird position because like he doesn't fit in with the humans. He has to
Oh
be
yeah,
isolated. He
yeah.
only talks to three: Will, his dad, and Will's girlfriend, played by Frida Pinto. Um, yeah, and so he feels like he wants to be with them. Like he tries to help the neighbor, the poor neighbor in this movie, the neighbor, the most unlucky neighbor in the history of films, I think. Caesar is just everyone in this family is accidentally just fucking with this neighbor. But he attacks him and then he gets sent to an ape sanctuary run by some assholes. But then he like also doesn't fit in with the apes because he's
Yeah.
smarter than them, but he also hasn't been like around them. So yeah, I like I actually didn't include any pictures of it, but I like that he's in the attic and he just looks out the window.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and when he's in captivity, he draws like the window to kind of remind him of home, but then it's also like, hey, what's outside the window is like what I want, so it kind of represents freedom, and it ends up being the symbol throughout the rest of the films,
Oh, it's great. It's great.
which is real subtle, which I really really liked. But yeah, so he has a plan to make all the chimps smarter because he realizes like, no, I gotta help apes. Like I could just go back with humans, like, but apes, this is wrong. We shouldn't be here. And I do like that the sanctuary kind of looks like the cage from the original film. It's also the one that's on the poster.
Mhm.
So yeah, he has a plan to steal all the brain juice and, and give it to the other apes. This new brain juice, which is highly experimental. Like even James Franco doesn't want to go forward with it, but his money hungry boss is like, do it. I guess that boss is really the one to blame for everything.
Well, also, James Franco flips on his head because he's
Yeah.
literally about to give it to his dying dad.
Yeah.
And then he's like, wait a second, we don't know the complications of this. I'm like, you were
Yeah.
literally about to give it to your dad the night before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like where was that rationality of like back then? Like he just like it's just kind of like he's so adamant about on testing it on his dad, but
Mhm.
then oh, we don't know the ramifications of it because if his like you know, I guess if you thought like if his dad did take it and it was a virus, then he would give it to James Franco. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that is the important thing is it's a virus. It's a virus that targets whatever is causing the Alzheimer's, but you know, it can like go out of control. Uh so yeah, someone gets exposed to it. Dale from Tucker and Dale versus Evil. He's also an unlucky son of a bitch. He gets exposed to it. And we see him get sick throughout the film. And I remember at the time being like, what's that all about? And I just like kept forgetting. They did it enough where they just sprinkled it in. And then the in between like all these big story moments. So you kind of forgot about it. And
Yeah.
it's what makes that ending hit so hard.
Oh yeah. Whew.
Um, but yeah, I like this relationship here. Caesar and his boys. He meets some boys in the pen. Unfortunately, that guy in the back doesn't make it. Poor Buck. He gets replaced, but yeah, Buck the gorilla doesn't make it. Um, this was the standout character for me
Oh
besides
yeah,
Caesar.
Maurice is
Maurice,
fantastic. Oh god.
played by a lady who's in a bunch of movies, but she was also in the second episode of Blade, and you would know that if you watch my show Blade Boys, which is available on Patreon for YouTube channel members. This is the best CGI in the movie is Maurice.
Hmm.
I thought it was like a suit for a long time, like an enhanced suit. I'm like, that looks 100% real. That is not CGI. Then I saw how they made it. I'm like, holy shit, that is CGI. I'm like, why don't they
Yeah.
all look that good? But yeah,
I
he's
think
in a,
it's because the monkey has the ape has so much defining features that you can
yeah,
actually just target on, and it's the only one. So I
yeah,
think that's why they can focus more of the interest in just that one. Because
yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't really recall getting too much close up to any other like orangutan or something like that.
No, it's I actually think that was the only orangutan in the film. And they made it sure it was one of those big face ones. I
Yeah.
forget, not all of them have that. I remember years ago looking up like what the deal with that was. I think it's like I forget exactly why it's like that. Um, but yeah, Maurice is my favorite. It's the only one that knows how to do sign language because it was in the circus. So it's kind of like Caesar's only like real like
Companion or whatever that
yeah,
he can
yeah.
actually communicate with.
Yes, but even then, Caesar is limited.
Yeah.
Maurice is limited because it's still an ape. But that's when he does the whole thing like, hey, apes, if they work together, they're strong. And he does the whole thing with the sticks.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, well, apes are stupid. Who cares? And one of those stupid apes is Rocket, this bald ape, who just doesn't like, just hates Caesar as soon as he shows up, is like making fun of him, beating the shit out of him, and then Caesar is smart and beats the shit out of him.
I like the scene like right before he does that.
Mm.
I don't where he's like getting pampered by the other apes and he's just
Yeah.
sitting there like he's like from like Roman times.
Yeah.
They're digging at his fingernails.
um, but yeah, no, I like Rocket because Rocket is kind of like what makes Caesar realize like I got to make these chimps smarter.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, hey, I beat him and now he's like cowering, he's afraid of me. He's like, but I don't want him to be afraid of me, but that's how chimps are. He's like, but it shouldn't be like that. I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this.
Yeah.
So yeah, his boy Rocket there. And then we meet this guy, Koba, who at the time I didn't realize was gonna be such a big deal, but he is a bonobo, which used to be considered a chimpanzee. They're not anymore.
Mhm.
He was born like he's just been in captivity his entire life, used as an experiment. And I like that he's like really trained to be a lab, like bonobo.
Yeah.
Like when they give him the cookie and then he comes out and he's like, give me more, give me more.
The
uh
funny thing about his
mm,
kind, his
yeah.
species, they're actually known to be less aggressive than chimpanzee. I don't know if you were about to say
Yeah,
something. I
yeah,
didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you
I
off.
saw
Sorry.
that, but he gets the new virus, I think.
The 13, yeah.
Yes. But yeah,
A-
he
ALZ 113, yeah.
yeah, but now that he has increased intellect, he now knows like revenge and anger and hatred. And like I like that he's like spelling the guy's name and looking at him, and he
Yeah.
looks creepy as hell. I don't think it's Toby Kebbell in this one.
Yeah, I don't think
Um,
so. At least if it is him, he's not on the IMDb list.
yeah, no, I don't think he was in this one. But yeah, Koba is kind of cool because you kind of feel good for him. It's like, man, he lived in hell and now he's like
Oh
gets
yeah.
to be free with all the other like Caesar had a good upbringing compared to most apes.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Caesar had the life that all
yeah,
I mean, like, literally, he was a pampered ape his whole like, even though he wanted to like, if he just stayed in the attic, he would
yeah,
have died a happy ape.
yeah.
But it's still like still wanted to be, get outside and see new things. If he would have
Mm.
known how these apes were living, obviously he probably would have thought different of it. But
Yeah. Although I wonder, like, how smart does this virus make them? Because like Caesar's like an adult, basically. And you're not allowed to have adult chimpanzees because when they hit puberty, they go fucking nuts.
well, that's another thing. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because the scenes where they're like in the sanctuary and
Yeah.
freaking Malfoy or whatever is being a dick to him or whatever.
Oh yeah, hold on. I got a slide of him. There he is.
But okay, first off, those apes would rip him to fucking shreds.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take two shits from
Yeah.
him. Like it's just very unrealistic that they're like the apes are scared of them because apes are incredibly strong.
Yeah.
Incredibly strong. And when they are violent, like they mangle human beings.
Yeah. I think they said the strength of 10 men, like a regular chimpanzee has the strength of 10 men.
Oh yeah, because like
Um,
their thought process is when they go in battle, like if they
yeah.
get in fight with an opponent, is to disarm the opponent. So then
Yeah.
they can't be a threat anymore.
Like there's that I saw this video years ago on like a nature documentary, probably on YouTube too, where it's just like chimpanzees hanging out, like eating like fruit or whatever, like twigs, and then they see like a monkey, and then they all freak out, like grab the monkey, just bash its
Oh
head
yeah,
in,
oh yeah,
and
oh
start
god.
eating it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, they're omnivores. People always think they're just eating like leaves and stuff. Like, no, they're omnivores. They will rip shit
Oh no,
up.
that they have tendencies to hunt. That is
Yeah,
natural for their behavior is to hunt.
yeah. But yeah, Tom Felton. So a lot of this movie is basically the opposite of the original Planet of the Apes. So the apes are in cages. Humans are the ones hosing them down and
Yeah.
everything, which is very similar to when the apes hose down Charlton Heston. And speaking of Charlton Heston, Tom Felton gets a bunch of his, like gets, or at least gets
Oh
one of
yeah.
his lines. It's a madhouse, a madhouse, when he's like torturing all of them. So yeah, there are a lot of references to the original, like Caesar's building a Statue of Liberty Lego set.
Yeah.
The names, there was a ape that led a rebellion in one of the later movies called Caesar. Bright Eyes, I think, was Charlton Heston's name that the one ape gave him, and Bright Eyes was Caesar's mother.
Yeah.
And usually I hate stuff like that in prequels. I hate when prequels have to explain like every little detail, but it kind of works for me in this one
Hmm.
because the movie it's building up to is set so far in the future. Like little stuff like these names will probably get passed down throughout generations. Like
Yeah.
it's not like that'll be the person from that film. No. It's not like Han Solo's gun in Solo, where it's like, wow, that's how he got his gun. It was another guy's gun, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. Um, this it works for me. The whole movie works. I love the whole like finale on the Golden Gate Bridge. That was exciting. All right, it was a little confusing. So I know he made the apes in the sanctuary smart.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming maybe the apes in the building that they free are smart, but the ones from the zoo, I'm guessing they will get smart because it turns out to be like a flu that spreads,
Yeah.
but they're not smart right away. So the fact that like they all start following Caesar, they're smart. Like, no, the zoo ones would probably just be freaking out and running around. They wouldn't be like
Yeah.
following this ape. They'd be like, what the fuck is this? Ah. Um, but I like that they're like riding horses, they're grabbing like parts of the fence that look like spears. Like, okay, it's starting to look a little like the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Especially when he comes riding in on the horse.
Yeah, yeah. Which I saw in the trailer, and I'm like, okay, what the hell? And again, for a movie I really thought wasn't going to be great, I ended up loving it. It's weird that people look back on this one as like the weak one.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I'm guessing people really love the next two. And
Yeah.
maybe I don't know, are they the best? We'll find out at the end. But maybe they are like better movies, but like that doesn't diminish this one. Like this one's fine. This everything we like in those movies stems from this one. So
Well,
yeah,
the year, so 2011 when it came out,
yeah,
it didn't make the most amount of money that was
no,
the Harry Potter film, but
yeah,
apparently it was the most popular film of the year.
yeah,
Like as far as like when people went back and like rated it, like
yeah,
it was the most popular film of 2011.
yeah.
I mean, that's the same year we got Captain America, Thor,
Mhm.
and the third Transformers. But like, like, and then like, was it? I can't remember the Harry Potter, but it was the part two or whatever.
I think it was part two. And don't forget Green Lantern.
Oh yes. I was that is a whole nother that's a whole nother topic. I was so freaking disappointed. So disappointed when I saw that in theaters. I was so like I was like, I that's what I waited for. I waited for that. That's what I got. Oh god.
um but yeah, I remember watching this and I'm like, okay, so the new origin, because in the original, they have to piece together what happened, but it's implied that humans went to war, dropped a bunch of nukes, basically killed each other. Whoever survived, like all technology and stuff was lost, so humans just kind of got dumb. And the apes, I guess maybe due to radiation or just time, started evolving to be more man-like.
Mhm.
And over time, they made their own civilizations and their different working classes and stuff. I'm like, okay. But in this one, I'm like, all right, so a bunch of apes got smart and then they ran to the redwoods. I'm like, feels like a problem that could be solved in like a weekend. Just get some guns up there. We'll take care of them. Like, how is this gonna lead to the planet of the apes? I don't understand. And it turns out, oh, I skipped ahead. Sorry. It turns out that the virus that made them is also going to kill humans. So the one lab guy spread it to James Franco's what you call it, neighbor, who turns out to be a pilot. And I love this whole graph at the end that shows that he just spread it everywhere and basically just killed most human life on Earth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, that's clever. That does give the apes the upper hand in this situation. Um, so yeah, just a really great time, and they do reference the Icarus rocket
I was about to bring
going
it up.
to, huh?
I was gonna bring it up and then I saw the slide. I was like, all right, we're gonna get to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Which I remember in the theater being like, "Oh shit, I didn't think they were gonna go there." Yeah. So I like they show like, "Oh wow, there's a rocket, and it made it to Mars, and it's entering Mars." But then we get later on, it's like, "Oh, that rocket disappeared." Also, Charlton Heston is in the movie.
Oh yeah.
The
The
one
movie.
quiet guy is watching one of his movies. I forget the name of the movie, but yeah,
The agony and the ecstasy.
yeah, getting the ecstasy. So yeah, it was really nice. So yeah, at some point they have to circle back to this and just remake the original. Which you can do. You can remake it within this new timeline. It doesn't have to be leading up to a twist ending, which doesn't matter because everyone knows the twist ending in Planet of the Apes by now.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's cool to know, like, as we're watching all these films, that there are humans from before the apocalypse that are just out there somewhere. They're just hanging out. Who knows when they'll get back? Yeah, so I love this movie. Really, really great. It's one that actually does get better. I do think people need to go back and rewatch this one. But yeah, one good thing that the series does, Logan, it doesn't oversaturate anything. Like, they take breaks between films, which is
Oh
nice.
yeah.
Because when did Dawn come out? Was that 2015?
2014.
2014. All right, it's
Well,
2011,
so
20.
another
Yeah.
funny thing, so they announced the fourth one in 2016, and we
Yeah.
didn't get it till 2024.
Yeah, that was weird. I think I know why. Um because then Fox, the whole Fox Disney thing, I think was
Oh yeah, there you
happening.
go.
But yeah, so Rupert Wyatt didn't come back for the second one. He was the director of the first one. And actually before that movie, he only directed short films and then one movie called The Escapist, which with Brian Cox, who I guess that's the reason he's in this.
Yeah, I haven't actually I looked at his portfolio, and the only other movie that I might would probably have watched that he made would be The Gambler, but I still ain't it looked kind of boring. I wanted to
Uh
watch it for at the time when it came out, but I just never got
well
around to it.
that's the remake of the movie with the singer, right? Shit, he died. Hold on. Gambler is a remake.
Oh, okay. Because I know this one's what shoot. Oh God, what's his name?
Marky
It's
Mark's in it,
Mark
and
Wahlberg, and
Brie Larson, John Goodman.
John Goodman. John Goodman, yeah.
But it is a remake of the movies with Kenny Rogers.
Oh,
Yeah, Kenny Rogers did a series of movies called The Gambler, and it's a remake of that. How many of them were there? Hold on.
I have to ask my dad about that because I'm sure he's probably seen those.
Yeah, was it, hold on, were they movies or shows? They were movies. Because there's a great Reno 911 episode where Kenny Rogers is coming to town. And the one, who is the one cop? Was it Ramirez? Hold on, Reno 911 side tangent. I just have to remember the name of the cop. It's been a while since I watched Reno 911. Oh my
Talking about an
god.
underestimated show, to be honest, man.
I can't bring myself to watch the Quibi season or the new movie. Because I just think it's gonna be bad. Garcia. So Garcia is driving around with Kenny Rogers. He's like, man, I love all your work. He's like, I really love those movies you're in. He's like, Gambler 2, and just starts listing all the Gambler movies.